And we're live. Hole in the Soul podcast. Co-host Kevin Oldham, Jose Bolaños. We're here today talking about something that is near and dear to our hearts, and that is the word commitment. Commitment.
Yeah.
What does commitment mean? What's the official definition? You know, I should have had some notes up. Do you know what Webster's definition is, Jose?
I don't know. But I have my own understanding of what it means to me.
So here we go. The state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, etc. Dedicated. Yeah. So
yeah,
we're going to talk about commitment today. We're going to talk about why we make commitments. We're going to talk about the importance of honoring them. And we're going to also talk about the ultimate commitment, the noble commitment, the commitment that you align your life with. But let's talk about commitments overall. And then we'll get to like our noble commitment, because I think that's part of a big thing around your teachings, right, my man?
Yes. So can I share my perspective on this to begin with?
Absolutely. Let's go.
So here's what I say. This is the way I've understood it for myself. You can decide to die, survive, or thrive. So you can die, survive, or thrive. To die, you need to do nothing. You need to be a victim. You need to say, it's not worth doing any effort, making any effort. It's not going to make a difference anyways. You put the locus of control outside of you. You're a victim of the circumstances, and you lay yourself down to die. You're a victim of the circumstances. To survive, you just have to do the minimum. You live from obligation. So you are obligated. And the way I define an obligation is something that you do so that you can avoid a negative consequence. So you need to pay the bills. You need to make money. You're obligated to do certain things, or the lights will be turned off, or you will go hungry, or your children won't have anything to eat. So you're obligated, and you're doing the minimum to survive. But you're probably not motivated and inspired. But to me, commitment, to thrive, you have to be committed. You have to have a commitment. And a commitment to me is, I actually think the word commitment and love are actually equal. And let me explain that quickly. If I always use this example here. What's the bare minimum obligation that a father needs to fulfill when they have children? What is the one obligation they have to fulfill when they have children? It's whatever the government establishes. Because if they don't fulfill on it, they either go to jail or they lose their, they have to.
That's
pay,
the bare minimum.
What is it?
Yeah.
Alimony? You have to pay alimony.
Child support if you're not with the mother. Yeah. Yep. You're right. There's a legal ramification, and you go to deadbeat jail if you don't pay it. Yeah, I've heard about that.
You go to deadbeat jail if you don't pay it, and it's an obligation.
That's the bare minimum of being a dad in the States. Yeah.
Everything else that you do above that is born out of love. It's born out of being committed. I am committed to my children. I have love for my children. It's everything that I do because it is. In Spanish we say te nace. It is born in you. It is evoked inside you to be a better father. So sharing time with my son, taking him to soccer, having conversations, educating him, showing him values, going beyond what is just obligated from me. I do that from love. So to me, to be committed to something is to do it with love. It's to do it with more than is the bare minimum and that you're obligated to do. So to be committed to something is to do it with love. That's my perspective on commitment.
I never really thought about that. What's funny is I'm looking at the word love. It's actually one of our company values, my marketing company. I'm literally looking at the word love in blue letters right now. And I'm having a hard time poking holes in your perspective on that. Usually I try to like be like, well, what about fill in the blank? But that's an interesting lens to look at commitment through.
Give it a try.
Because the other things that maybe we don't do through a commitment, we call obligations, right? Things that we don't do that have love in them. It's an obligation, which is like, hey, I gotta pay taxes. I'm not committed to paying taxes. Hell no. It's not.
There might be somebody committed
to it.
But
I'm obligated. You know, I got to do the bare minimum or else I go to jail, like child support. That's interesting. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I love, listeners? What you're going to love about Jose is he just drizzles these pearls of wisdom randomly. And if you're not listening, you'll miss them. But they're little things that are little tools that I carry around in my metaphorical tool bag, my tool belt of life, that sometimes you can pull out and you're like, oh, commitment. Love.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that's a little tool. Thank you.
I'm doing it out of love. Doing it out of love.
Like, you think about that. We talk about love. We're actually recording this on Valentine's Day in the U.S. We're recording this on February the 14th, which is a day that people celebrate their commitments to other human beings. You know, when I woke up this morning, actually last night, I gave my wife flowers. I gave her some chocolates and a card because I love her, right? I'm committed to her. We were thinking about the fact that I had my birthday like last week, right? And it was our 17th birthday celebration together. We met like right before both of our birthdays. I'm like, this is our 17th year that we've been committed to each other, right? All in, out of love. That we got to do this. Like we got to go around the sun 17 times together, right? Yeah. It was a deep commitment. And there's love.
You're committed to her.
Yeah.
You're committed to you love her. Now, here's another story that I think speaks into this. It's a kind of deeper element, but
I like deep. Because this is about the hole in the soul. This is not a shallow podcast.
Check this story out. There's this Argentinian Trevor. I don't know what it's called, but he's a trovador. He's a singer. It's sort of like poesy. It's not really. It's folklore poesy, kind of like Bob Dylan type singing.
Yeah. Folk music. Okay. Yep.
Folk music in Spanish, and so it's poetic and it speaks deep into the soul and so blah blah blah. So, anyways, his name is Facundo Cabral. Facundo Cabral. His wife and his daughter died in an airplane crash in 1960s or 70s. And two things that stand out in this story is one, that when they're reading out the names of the people that passed away, and then they say his daughter and his wife's name, he falls to the ground. And his comment was, or what he said in that moment was, now I know who's in control. Speaking to a higher, like to God.
Right.
Now I know who's in control. So on his knees, he just got the news. He's like, now I know who's in control. But here's the part that speaks into this word of commitment and love is Mother Teresa was friends with him. And Mother Teresa calls him. And instead of saying, Facundo, I'm so sorry for your loss. Can I do anything for you? She's like, Facundo, oh man, what a predicament you find yourself in. What are you going to do with all that love that you have left over?
Mm-hmm.
So where are you going to place that love? Mm-hmm. And he says that she took him to bathe lepers in Calcutta, and that saved his life.
Wow.
So it's basically asking him, what are you going to commit to now? What are you committed to now that's going to save your life? It's going to save your soul. And she took him to bathe lepers in Calcutta, and that saved him. And I think that's a beautiful, amazing story.
It really is. And it speaks to I want to ease us into the noble commitment, right? Because we all have a lot of commitments that we make in life. I'm committed to the employees of my companies. I'm committed to my family. You know, I'm committed to my wife. I'm committed to myself. You know, I made a lot of commitments to myself, honoring myself and respecting myself. And that's where really the noble commitment comes in, which is something that you introduced to me back when I was your student, your mentee. And I want you to talk about how in your teachings, your couple decade career, you've really, you know, this is kind of core to like the VUCA fit methodology, right? It's like, we got to have,
it is
what I call, you know, the way I think about our noble commitment, that I'm going to let you, because this is your area of genius. I think of it as our true north. Like, what's our moral compass? Yeah. What's our why for doing this stuff? You know, doing life, Kevining, or whatever your name is, right? Jose. But let's talk about the noble commitment and how you wound up here. I know that you're a synthesizer, and some of these things you come up with yourself, some of these things you take from other folks, and then you've created your own framework. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, my own understanding of it. My own understanding.
That's a good way to put it. It's an understanding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the way I understand this. I never say this is the way it is, or this is what this is the way I've been led to understand this, and this is how I understand it for myself. But, you know, going back to that story, where you're going to put all that love that you have left over. First, I believe we all have a lot of love to give. Like, we have this amount of dose of love. And the question is, what are you going to put it into? Mm-hmm. And those are your commitments, is, you know, the family, the work, the job, the book, the passion. Where are you going to put all this love that you have to give? Mm-hmm. I think that's a key question that we're answering here. The noble commitment, to me, because we have multiple commitments, and we transition from commitment to commitment. You know, I'm committed to our relationship in this podcast, but suddenly my son might come in and say he has a tummy ache and he's got an emergency, and then I shift to another commitment, and we're always transitioning from things that we're committed to. And then there is conflicting commitments. It's like, if my son came in right now, it would be conflicting with this podcast. Right. So we're navigating all this ecosystems of things that we're committed to. And we can overcommit. Like, we can overcommit to something and then find.
That's Americans, by the way. The Americans are overcommitted to stuff. It's like their kids' soccer schedules or whatever. You know, it's like, and I'm going to say some of them are obligations, not commitments.
Something you do because you're obligated.
Yeah. You look up and you're like, oh, the kids are supposed to be in 3 different places at the same time. Who put all these obligations into our lives? Oh, we did. But anyway,
the machine. You got to feed the machine.
You got to feed the machine. But keep going. You're right. I mean, we can have a lot of commitments. We can also have a lot of obligations.
Yes. So the noble commitment, in its purest form, to me, is the commitment to live out your life's purpose. I mean, if you tell me what's the noble commitment is to connect to your infinite purpose, to your divine purpose, your purpose in life, and commit to organizing your entire life around that. It's to commit to your purpose, a purpose greater than yourself. So the noble commitment is a commitment to something greater than yourself. And I know that for some people, they're not there yet. It might be something more basic. So I also say the noble commitment is to something greater than my current self. It's to commit to something greater than my current self. So to simplify it and not have it be like, oh my God, this guy's telling me to commit to saving the world and world hunger and world peace and whatever. No, a commitment greater than your current self could be working on your health, working on your mindset, working on you, and committing to being just a little bit more loving with yourself. I'm not even going to say to be a better version of yourself, because I kind of don't like that concept of being a better version of yourself. Just to commit to showing more self-love. So working on yourself out of self-love and not out of self-discipline or self-hate.
Or shame even, right? Oh, I'm out of shape and I hate myself, so I got to go run a half marathon on the treadmill and kill myself for 2 hours to prove that I don't suck. Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which is where I think a lot of people go with this type of stuff too, you know?
Sorry?
I said, I think that's where a lot of people go with it. You know, when they start looking at things that like we're now going to self-love, which is you're talking to a dude, and I mentioned in our last episode, first time I could say I love myself was within the past 2 years. Really bizarre.
Yeah.
And some people never get there, you know?
Yeah. But you work out, you train, you read, you meditate, you pray, you do all these things, not because you want to be a better version of yourself or you need to polish yourself or that, but you do it because you love yourself. You're committed to yourself. That's again, using these two words to me is interchangeable. I'm committed to myself is I'm in love with myself. I'm committed to my family. I'm in love with my family. I'm committed to my work. I'm in love with my work. I'm committed to life is because I'm in love with life. So I use them very interchangeably. That's the way it makes sense to me. Yeah. So the noble commitment is a commitment to your purpose, to your infinite purpose, or to something greater than your current self. That's the noble commitment. Committed to something greater than yourself or greater than your current self.
So there's I'm going to say the majority of the listeners, all 5 of you today, right? Bill Reagan, by the way, shout out for sending an email about an affirmation email. Jose, you saw that email, right?
Yes.
One of our listeners. So thank you for that. Thank you, Bill. Yeah.
Let's read that quote.
All right, let's read it. So let me go.
Let's read that.
You know what's funny is I have Bill's. You know, we're just gonna have to get Bill on the show because people are gonna get sick of hearing from you and me. What was kind of funny about this is I also have something that Bill sent me. So Bill's a gentleman who, if I recall correctly, I met him through the owner of my building, my landlord, who has become a spiritual mentor to me, Harry Foster. And so Bill is one of these guys. He's a bucket filler. He sent me this Mother Teresa poem, like in a letter. Like just random things show up from Bill. He's a bucket filler. That. I love him. Yeah, he's great. So he said, "KO."
Coincidence.
Huh? Yeah, I know. Well, we're going to read it too because it speaks to what we're talking about. So he said, "KO. It's like when you cut your own firewood, you will be warmed twice." Great introduction. Keep me updated on your next podcast at your service, Bill. And it was just giving feedback on our show. First of all, Bill, thank you for that. Say,
I love that quote.
That's awesome.
Saying building building your own fire.
When you cut your own firewood, you will be warm twice. So I'm guessing somebody famous said that. Who knows? Chop your own wood. Yeah, way back to 1916. You know, you're gonna warm yourself up by doing the work, and you're also gonna warm yourself up by sharing the work. I don't know. It's deep.
But you know what's cool?
What's that?
I thought about the ice bath. When you prepare your own ice bath, you're gonna suffer twice. Also,
yeah. I suffer so much. I suffer. I want to talk about that. We're gonna talk about commitments, and one of the ways we honor our commitment, and we solidify our commitment, is we put ourselves in ice. I do every Sunday. But I had to take a hiatus because I had surgery and I couldn't bend my knee all the way. And so I took my first one I actually took it on my birthday last week. Holy crap, did that suck. Because keep in mind, I hadn't taken one in like 3 months. And I was like the mind games, the back and forth, but I get in up to my knees. I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'm going to get out. Like that was so torturous. And then you know what that was? Those were the what do we call them? This opposite of endorphins. Remember that podcast? Dynorphins. It was the dynorphins. I'm sitting here thinking, these are the dynorphins that are kind of trying to keep me from doing something stupid that's not like really that fun. And finally I plunged in and I was happy. Well, let's talk about that. Yeah. I mean, it's exactly right. It's like you've got the torture of preparing it, the ritual.
And then the torture of getting in it.
And then the torture of getting in it. And sometimes it's like getting up to your knees and being like, wow, this is really not a great idea. I'm going to get out, get psyched up. But the reason we do that, or the reason I do that, I mean, number one, there's an adaptation biologically or physiologically that happens, but also ceremoniously, it's a commitment to myself and to honor. It's a ritual to honor my infinite, my noble commitment, being the filament and the lives of the people I touch, right?
Yeah. Which is the other concept that I use, which is the noble warrior. Mm-hmm. The noble warrior is somebody committed, has a noble commitment, committed to something greater than themselves, willing to do the self-work necessary to fulfill on that commitment, willing to train themselves up, willing to do ice baths and go through dynorphins. And I just want to say a dynorphin is recently discovered by scientists to be what the body produces that makes you resist discomfort. So it's what keeps you from doing the ice bath. It's what keeps you from, it's actually forcing you to stay comfortable. You're actually pushing through dynorphins to get to that other end. The dynorphin, they talk about it coming in waves while you're in the ice bath. There's moments where you want to get out and it comes like, okay, now I got to get out. And then you stay in and the wave passes. And each wave that comes and passes, that wave of wanting to get out of the discomfort, it makes you stronger. And it's going to result in endorphins on the other side. But I can see that also when I'm hiking. I'm hiking. I'm like, I want to end this. I want to stop. I want to end this hike. I don't want to go on, or running or doing exercise.
All the time.
Pushing against the endorphins, which is making you stronger.
That's all that running is. Yes. I mean, that's all that running is. It's just nonstop. For me, it takes me 4 hours to run a marathon. So 4 hours of just torture and dynorphins so that you can feel the endorphins for about 10 minutes when you're done. Great trade-off.
Well, there is the runner's high. You've heard of the runner's high? That's probably when the endorphins have subsided.
Correct.
And then they're running on endorphins.
Yeah, you get flooded with endorphins. Are you somebody who benefits from that? Because I am, as well as my brother. And from my understanding and talking to a lot of other people, the endorphin, the runner's high thing, not everybody gets it. And those are the only people who say running sucks because they don't get the side benefit. Do you get it?
I don't.
You don't? So you hate running then. There's no benefit.
I run, but they also say you got to hate it to reap the benefits of the dynorphins.
Absolutely.
If you like it, then so I guess I got to run more to hit that runner's high. Maybe I haven't ran enough.
Maybe that's it. So the other thing I thought was interesting about these dynorphins, right, is the fact that they were talking about like cocaine withdrawal, drug withdrawal from opioids or whatever it is, right? Those are the dynorphins. I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's so
from addiction.
It's kind of like when you can, we have this concept that we like to put into the VUCA Fit method. It's like if you can name it, you can tame it, and addiction is frankly, I think, an easy thing to say. Hey, I'd never tamed it, because you might tame one form of addiction. Alcoholism for both of us. Okay, we tame that. But I definitely still have addictive quality. I have addictive personality. I'm never going to cure or tame addiction in this mind, right? But I know that there's this chemical reaction taking place in my head that's a dynorphin, and that it's an adaptation that's part of my life. Like, it's part of the chemical makeup, and it's like, okay, this is temporary. It's going to go away. Once the circumstances change, then maybe you can kick an addiction, a specific addiction. Anyway, what were you going to say, my friend?
That we should talk about sobriety in one of the episodes. Let's not jump into sobriety in itself. But I think it's worth jumping in to sobriety and our take on that process of recovery, because there's so many people, including ourselves, that use negative coping mechanisms and everything we know about addiction. I think it would be really worth jumping into that. Dude. But yeah, the dynorphins is what keeps you from wanting to be uncomfortable. I do want to share something else, if I may, on commitment, getting back on track with the commitment.
Yeah. Yep. Let's go.
So I learned that the central act of leadership, so I really want to make emphasis on this. The central act of leadership is declaring a commitment. So declaring a commitment is the central act of leadership. And I have a quote here that I would like to read from one of my mentors that I followed from a distance, reading all his books and just consuming all his content. His name is Richard Strozzi-Heckler. Okay. He wrote the book, The Leadership Dojo.
Which I have in my nightstand, and I can't wait to start.
Yeah, it's a significant book to my work. Especially to the VUCA Fit Dojo, because it was born, inspired from that work. So Heckler says we create the future through language. When we make a declaration, we make a commitment to a future space of possibility. So we create the future through language. until we distinguish this future possibility in language, there is no such future to move forward. There are no actions to take to fulfill on the declaration, and others cannot help us fulfill on our declared goals. In other words, we have to declare the commitment so that we can see the actions that need to be taken, so we can get the help that we need to receive, so that we can organize ourselves towards that new future that we're committed to. And it goes on. Of course, life unfolds and moves forward, regardless whether we speak a vision of the future or not. In other words, you can keep on living without being committed to anything. But if we are in the game of choosing and creating a life, the declaration sets a direction and galvanizes our intention, much like a compass bearing sets a course and guides us to a specific destination. The skill of making a declaration is a fundamental skill of leadership, whether in leading our own lives or in leading others.
I love the fact that they mentioned the compass. The compass, because I'm like, it's your true north. It's your true north. It is. It's like your orientation of where you are.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool. That's from Leadership Dojo. Is that what you just quoted?
I think it is from the Leadership Dojo. It is from the Leadership Dojo that I quoted. He talks about commitment, and you need to learn to embody your commitment. But the declaration is the moment where you say to the world, this is the future I'm going to create. This is what's going to galvanize my actions. This is how I'm going to orient myself. It's by declaring this commitment. And that's why all my coaching starts by helping my client declare the commitment and actually articulating it. You know, I am the commitment to being a source of presence, strength, and transformation. And I know that sounds kind of awkward. I am the commitment. That was just the way that I learned to declare it, because you need to become the commitment.
Yes.
For you to be able to manifest that reality, you need to embody it. You need to become it.
Right.
It needs to transform you. So I am the commitment to being a source of presence, strength, and transformation to others. But I am the commitment to a book.
Yeah.
That you're supporting me in writing and that we're co-authoring. We are the commitment to that book.
Yep.
We are the commitment to the VUCA Fit Dojo. We are the commitment to this podcast.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So declaring a commitment is the central act of leadership.
Man, that's huge. It
is.
I love it. And I love the fact that the professional definition that you just read, or whatever the text was from, if it's from Leadership Dojo, is exactly how somebody who's had a noble commitment for a couple of years now, as a result of working with you, literally this noble commitment stuff, like it's etched into my home. So Jose's seen it. We remodeled our home a couple years ago, and I have a charging drawer. Remember that, Jose? And my builder put Be the filament in inlaid wood in our charging drawer to cover up like this area where all the outlets were. And it was a surprise. Like he knew that not only did he know my commitment, and I think this is where things like, I know your commitment, I can recite your commitment. People who know you know what your commitment is, even if they don't know what the words are, right? Yeah. And when you have this thing and then you use it to orient your life, which is really what we're talking about, to lead others, to lead your own life with integrity, the strong moral compass, with whatever you want to call it, people start to freaking notice. And next thing you know, you hired a guy to remodel your house and he made it part of your house permanently. Like that's how true north we're talking. So this concept of a noble commitment is it's what makes you tick. It's your why. You know, it's like, all right, this is the lens of life. This is the lens of life that I'm gonna live.
But you will become the filament in other people's lives. It's what you're going to embody. It's not something that's declared out there. It transforms you. You become that declaration. I have become a source of presence, strength, and transformation for others. It's almost like that's what I am here for. Right. It's like a cup is there to be filled. I am here to be a source of presence, strength. It's like my functionality in life is to be that and to do that. And that's what I am.
Yeah.
Because through the process of becoming, that's what I've become.
Yep.
So we become our commitment. And the interesting thing is that whether you are committed to something consciously or not, you're becoming.
Yeah.
You're becoming a POS or a bitter,
bitter table for one. Yeah, no, you're right. You're going to either become.
You are becoming, but you're not. You don't have the compass. You don't have the intention and the consciousness of what it is that you're becoming. But you can't avoid this process. You're becoming, my friend.
Yeah.
So it's better to declare consciously
versus being led. Well, it's going back to the whole. It's going back to like John Maxwell's teachings. I had the opportunity to hear him speak once, and I wrote down his one thing, and I was like, all right, that's it. And one sentence: live an intentional life with great purpose. Okay, so this is being intentional about how you're going to do it, and then it's backing up your purpose. And then he basically says, most people accept versus lead their lives. They accept it, right? It's part of what we want to do with this show. If you're listening and you're on the sidewalk of life, stick with us, our friends, because we are going to help you do that. Get off the sidewalk of life. But furthermore, they always talk. He basically says, people have these uphill aspirations and downhill habits, and I think maybe that's something that we'll also talk about in a future episode. Is habits and rituals. Like I use the word ritual a lot. I think it's deeper than a habit. A ritual.
Yeah, we can explore that.
Yeah, like I want to do one on ritual. That was loud. I want to do one on rituals where we really talk about the importance of them, why they exist, and then furthermore, how you use them to shore up and to solidify and reinforce your training as a noble warrior, your commitment, and just be a better person. I think that's all we know. Unless you're a POS, that's what most people want, is they want to be the best person that they know that they have within them, most of the time, because we're all human and we're not always the best, but in the aggregate, we want to be. What else, man? I mean, one of the things go ahead.
So again, just going back to the declaring the commitment, when you declare the commitment, when you say it out loud, we actually practice this. We actually get it when we're in workshops doing this. We actually get in front of everybody and in front of the group under pressure, like, what is your commitment? And you got to say it in front of the group, and whatever habitual like things come up, like if you hesitate or the tone of your voice, like these coaches will coach you on everything to be able to say it in a way. And there's 3 questions that we ask when we declare it in front of a group. One is the group's going to ask themselves, even like, it doesn't matter if you tell them to ask this, they're going to ask this. Do I believe them? Like they are inevitably, when you say, I am the commitment to being the filament in other people's lives, the people you're saying that to immediately would say to themselves, do I believe this guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Or, the second one is, would I follow him? And following him would be like hearing our podcast or signing up for our program or just being our friend or just hanging out with us. Just, will I follow this person? And the third one is, do I believe it? Do I believe it for myself?
Why isn't that the first one? That seems like the first one, because you got to believe it yourself.
First one.
Oh, it can't be. There's not like a specific order. Okay.
There's no specific order to this.
Me, I'm a detail guy sometimes. Most of the time, not.
Yeah.
I want to.
I'm not.
I know you're not. Can I conclude us with reading this Mother Teresa poem that Bill sent us? Like, is there anything else we want to talk about around commitment?
I think that's good enough for now.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm just going to read this. So friend Bill, who wrote in, he sent me, I don't know, it's probably a Christmas card from him and his wife this year. And I kept it. So God's brought him into this conversation twice today. So we're going to honor that. So it's a poem called Anyway. This is, people are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and frank, people will cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. When you spend years building something that could be destroyed overnight, build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have. It may never be enough. Give your best anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it is between you and God. It has never been between you and them anyway. And the footnote says, Mother Teresa hung a copy of this poem on a wall of an orphanage in Calcutta, which you mentioned earlier. So we're huge friends of serendipity and irony in this show, because we don't believe that serendipity and irony, we believe that things get put into our lives because they need to be, right? And this little piece of paper was here. So thank you, Bill. Is that going to be a wrap, man?
I think that's a wrap.
It's a wrap? Cool.
Love it.
Well, until next week, I'm Kevin Oldham. This is my partner, my good friend, Jose Bolaños. This was Hole in the Soul Podcast. We appreciate you. We hope you have a phenomenal week. And be well.